Welcome everybody to our first Ask Tom office hours for spatial technologies, for Oracle Spatial Technologies in 2026. We have an exciting agenda again today with a very special guest. Hans will later introduce to you, and then we will see also our guests presenting the content, which we have labeled The Future of Geospatial, Advanced Spatial Analytics in Oracle with CARTOS Agentic GIS platform. So that's what we have planned for today. Hans and I, we are part of the product management team for Oracle Spatial. And yeah, we are happy to have our guests today, Ryan Miller, Leo Rodriguez, and Chris Yatrakis. But before we come to that part, we would like to remind you of on a few things about the session, and let me go forward with it. As I said, it's the first session in 2026. The previous years, we have been running sessions almost monthly, and you can find the recordings on the Ask Tom platform once you share or you search for the Oracle Spatial series, and there you will find the recordings of all previous sessions. And if you want to have it easy, you can use the QR code on the right side. If you have any ideas what we should present in future sessions, we are very interested in your opinions and ideas, what we should be talking about. Just let us know, drop us an email or call us, whatever you prefer. We are happy to pick up your ideas and turn those into future sessions. And if you have any technical questions or you need discussing a certain topic related to spatial, there are two major forums you can post your questions on. It's either on Stack Overflow or the Oracle forums. There's a specific forum for spatial, and with regard to Stack Overflow, everything that is tagged Oracle minus spatial, we monitor on a regular basis and try to answer as soon as possible when there are new questions or discussions or new questions in existing discussions. And we also would like to remind you or make you aware of regular tech casts and presentations with spatial as one of the major topics. And those are organized by the Analytics and Data Oracle user community. They have their own website, andouc.org, and they have two major events. The TechCast series, which also runs on a monthly basis, and it's an online event. And there's also a presence event. The next one is the Summit 2026, which happens to take place in April, mid of April, and the place where it will be, it is in Redwood Shores in California. And in order to keep track of your questions, we would like to ask you to put your questions in the Q&A box. There we will answer them during the session. And with that, I would like to hand over to Hans for the intro part.
Yes, Karin, thank you so much for the intro to the webcast series. My little role in here today is just to introduce our colleagues from CARTO, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce the team. Karin's already mentioned we have Ryan Miller here, the solutions engineer from CARTO. We will do the practical presentation. We have Leo Rodriguez, who is the Chief Revenue Officer, and Chris Yatrakis, who is the Head of Alliances and Partners. And I've had the pleasure of working with the CARTO team for a while now. For those of you who did not follow the event so closely, you may have missed, or maybe not, have missed the fact that CARTO launched the CARTO platform on Oracle in October of last year. They ran a great workshop during the Spatial Data Science Conference in New York City in early October. And since then, the limited availability program is open, right? So if anybody is so excited after today's webcast that you would like to join the limited availability program, do just reach out to us. You know how to reach me, and I'm sure we'll also get more details on how to reach the CARTO colleagues during the presentation. So if anybody has an interest in joining that program, do let us know. And before I hand over, just very quickly, let me say that in order to sort of have a bit of a context to all of this CARTO platform on Oracle, I wanted to highlight why this is actually such a great fit from my perspective. First of all, as you all know, with our spatial technologies, we're providing infrastructure, right? And CARTO as a platform offers a solution on top of that infrastructure, which is the first sort of great fit. And then strategically, as you may or may not know, the CARTO platform is fully cloud native, which strategically is just a great fit with, especially with the integration with the autonomous database. Plus, with CARTO's focus on AI, which is also topic of today's webcast to quite some degree, that means we are pretty well aligned also on that front, right? So I would say without further ado, let me hand over to Chris, who is kind of the master of ceremony from the CARTO side for today's Ask Tom session. As I said, do put any questions into the Q&A box. And with that, over to you, Chris.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hans. Let me get my sharing here and just confirm you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. So good morning. We're thrilled today for the opportunity to join the Ask Tom series. Thank you for the very kind words, Hans and Karen. In this session, we'll explore how you can use CARTO's Geospatial Analytics and Agentic GIS natively atop Oracle Autonomous AI database to modernize existing workflows. My name is Chris Yatrakis. I lead our Partners and Alliances efforts here at CARTO. I'm joined by Ryan Miller, our Senior Solutions Engineer, and our Chief of Revenue, Leo Rodriguez. You'll hear from Leo in just a moment. This is what we were planning on covering for today. So we'll start with a 2-minute introduction to CARTO, then discuss the challenges that we often see with conventional GIS. We'll really cover 3 main things. First is the what, right? I'll introduce you to our vision for Agentic GIS, how it's democratizing access to location insights. Second, the how. We'll then dive into the CARTO for Oracle toolkit, show you the low-code tools you can use to build powerful solutions. And then finally, we'll make it real with a live product demonstration using public sector safety use case data from Austin, Texas, car crashes and road safety. And I believe throughout this sequence, what we'll end up doing is generating a lot of questions to which we believe we will have answers, and if not, we'll certainly follow up. As Hans had mentioned, there's a QR code here that's displayed on your screen. If you'd like to get in touch with us about the limited availability release or have a follow-up question, or perhaps reviewing this session in recording, please do contact us through this QR code. I'd now like to pass the microphone to Leo, who's our Chief Revenue Officer, for an executive level introduction to CARTO. Leo?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm very pleased to be here. Thanks for the audience. Thanks to Oracle for giving us this space. I'll start just briefly stating my background. I think it's relevant because I spent over 2 decades in analytics and Geospatial, and about a decade and a half of those years was in Esri, and the rest in other analytics companies, in the last 2 years at CARTO. So I had a first row view of what traditional GIS does. And as we know, something never changed, and one of them is that a lot of the data that is generated today by organizations and for decades has a very high level of geospatial content. What it did change is that the underlying technology to support and extract value from this data has drastically evolved over the years, and it has moved from very monolithic engineering geospatial tools with on-premise data to sort of cloud native, not only data warehouses, but analytics tools on top of that. CARTO is the sort of de facto cloud native geospatial analytics. And as such, and I'm going to assume we have a fairly GIS educated audience. As such, there's obviously some trade-offs with what traditional GIS is, which is much more oriented to map making, to map production, data management, data editing, but not so much to what CARTO does, which is just very, very performant geospatial analytics. And with that, there are some trade-offs. Some of the things that you can do with traditional GIS, you can do with CARTO up until October, like Hans mentioned, where we launched our partnership with Oracle. So as of October, and it's evolving very rapidly, CARTO is sort of fully native on CARTO Autonomous DB. We leverage Oracle Spatial in some areas, and we augment what everybody can do on top of Oracle in geospatial analytics. So what you can do with CARTO plus Oracle is very, very performant spatial analytics on vector data. You can create workflows that are persistent and that don't go away, and you can visualize data very, very performantly. And as of late last year, you can also create and run agents, and it's something that we're going to show today. Next slide, please. And this is not just us saying it, but it's also supported by a very large number of customers that are some of the largest organizations in the world that adopt and use CARTO every day, and that we look forward to continue working with our partners at Oracle. So I'm going to stop there. I don't want to give the full reveal, but pass it on back to Chris so we can get into the platform. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Leo. And for that summary and that overview, the key takeaway here is that our platform is enterprise proven, scalable, secure, certainly as we look at the types of customers that we're working with. All right, so let's start with the fundamental opportunity here. So Leo alluded to a little bit in his introduction, and the opportunity here really is massive for many Oracle customers. And in some cases, may be just scratching the surface or untapped. We saw the stat a moment ago: 80% of enterprise data has a location component. Of course, we in this audience are very familiar with that. Many of the customers have already invested heavily in spatial on Oracle, and it's a massive asset that is already sitting within their databases, but very few are leveraging its full value. So the multi-billion-dollar question is why, right? And the why is simple. Historically, accessing this insight required specialized, complex legacy tools, as we all very much know. And this would often create a bottleneck where really only a handful of experts, GIS practitioners, could do the work. And this really brings us to our core mission and a central theme of today: democratizing location analytics. We're fundamentally changing the game by moving beyond the GIS practitioner. And that's one of the key enablements that we see with Agentic GIS. Certainly it was true, and you'll see that within the CARTO toolkit, making GIS capabilities easier, and the production of SQL code more simplistic. But our goal fundamentally is to isn't just to serve those 10 experts on the GIS team. It's to unlock the other 10,000 potential users across the enterprise, the business analysts, the data scientists, the VPs of logistics, and empower them to run spatial analytics directly on Oracle. So when you broaden that user base by a factor of 1,000, you're not just dropping a new feature, new capability, a new dashboard. You're really creating a massive new engine for unlocking spatial analytics, and that's the opportunity that we're going to unlock together. So conventional GIS creates a bottleneck. Leo had mentioned a little bit of it. So imagine, if you will, a hard wall here between the GIS experts, the analysts, the business, the C-suite. Often it's a slow and manual process that relies on a few GIS experts. Business users wait for days or weeks for a spatial analysis, and by the time it arrives, often the opportunity has passed. And this delay is a significant cost, right? And we solve this with CARTO's Agentic GIS process. We empower your experts to build what are reusable agents that encapsulate their knowledge. Business users can then get direct insight from a simple conversational interface, right? So this removes the bottleneck. It amplifies the GIS capacity that already exists. The impact is immediate. Business users across the organization can now leverage these insights, leverage these agents for instant self-service insights, right? So a marketing analyst can define customer territories. A logistics manager can optimize delivery routes all on their own. The one that I was chatting with yesterday, a customer, on the sales side, a sales leader had the ability to manage their territories of their teams more effectively, because they're able to see where their reps are, from the one side of the street, or you have one set of reps calling, or one rep, and the other side you have a different rep, and they're able to consolidate territory. So putting the power into the hands of those decision makers that are on the front lines is what we have the ability to do now today with Agentic GIS, and that's the incredible unlock, right? And I want to reemphasize, right, what we're talking about is a fundamental change in how GIS is leveraged across the modern enterprise. But the GIS practitioner's role is just changing. It's not disappearing. We're moving from designing maps to designing reasoning systems, from managing layers to orchestrating workflows and agents, from updating dashboards to monitoring how agents respond to questions. So how are we making all of this happen? Let's go one level deeper, right? So we're fundamentally rebuilding GIS for the agentic era. This isn't about adding a simple chatbot to a map. It's a complete reimagining of how spatial analysis gets done. Our AI strategy is folding really across 3 key horizons that you see here on the screen. It starts with what we're delivering right now, enabling teams to create and deploy AI agents. This is the core of our vision. GIS analysts are no longer just the builders of dashboards. They become the builders of agents. These are reusable conversational tools that your non-technical business users can interact with directly to get answers to their own questions. And this is how we break down that traditional GIS bottleneck and scale spatial insights across the entire organization. And what's next on the horizon in the middle section is what makes agents truly intelligent, right? We're actively collaborating with leaders like Google Research on the next generation of geospatial foundational models. These are the underlying brains, right? That have the capability to truly power spatial reasoning. Allowing these agents to understand the complex context, to detect unseen patterns, generate insights that go far beyond simple queries is already having a tremendous impact. And CARTO is one of the leading sources where you can get access to many of these foundational models and work with them directly within our tool set. This roadmap's happening now. We're inviting our most strategic partners to join us on this journey. This gives you a front row seat and a chance to get hands-on with the technology. And then finally, the third piece, coming next, will be embedding Copilot experiences. We've already begun to do some of this within our platform. Think of this really as sort of an AI assistant that works right alongside your technical users. So the data analysts and the developers, to make them faster, make them more efficient at building maps and complex workflows. It's about supercharging their existing expertise. It's this 3-pronged approach, enabling the business users, building the foundational intelligence, empowering the experts, is how we're uniquely positioned to lead in the agentic era, and how we deliver compounding value to you as you're working with your geospatial data across Oracle. So This brings me to the point where I'd like to pass the microphone and the screen share to my colleague, Ryan Miller, who's our Senior Solutions Engineer. He's going to bring us through the architectural overview and onto the demo. And if time remains after your questions, we can share a little more on some of our vertical use cases within financial services, insurance, telecommunication. Just a reminder that the initial demo that we prepared is around public sector safety data in the state of Texas, Austin. But we can certainly share on other areas as well. Ryan?
Great. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'll let you keep the slide share until we just switch to the demo. But gonna just lay the foundation here. I'm going to talk through just a few slides to kind of set some background, some context on some of the materials I'm going to be showing you live, and then I'll obviously switch into a demo. So when we look at kind of spatial analytics built inside of or leveraging the capability that Oracle provides to CARTO, starting along the bottom row there. So basically, CARTO is available through the leading cloud marketplaces. So Azure, GCP, AWS, you could purchase CARTO through those platforms. CARTO itself leverages the native spatial SQL capabilities within Oracle. So geometries are stored as STO geometries inside of Oracle. The kind of the core functionality that is available through Spatial SQL inside of Oracle is available through CARTO. And then basically what we do is we take this core capability that Oracle provides and we enrich it with additional sets of features and obviously a UI that allows you to kind of build out this portfolio of capabilities to analyze spatial data at scale. Offer the opportunity to be hosted as a SaaS or self-hosted, cloud-hosted deployment. So you can leverage kind of a R hosted CARTO instance, or if you have security requirements such that you need CARTO to be hosted on your infrastructure, we offer the opportunity for you to host it and manage it as well. Leveraging the kind of the core native machine learning and AI integrations, and we'll talk through a little bit through that as we go through the demo, kind of how those pieces work. So basically what this integration allows you is kind of interoperability without compromising security. As I mentioned, we're leveraging the core functionality that's available through Oracle. All of those governance rules propagate up into CARTO so that you're able to kind of secure the data at its most granular level and have those rules kind of propagate across your GIS user base. By leveraging the capabilities, real quick, go back here, leveraging the capabilities of your data warehouse, obviously you can scale, ability to scale up, scale down as necessary. And this entire platform provides kind of this end-to-end user-friendly collaborative platform that allows you to build map-based applications, share applications across your different user bases. All right, so next slide. When we look at the platform, we kind of break it down into multiple different components. Starting on the left there, we have our Windows Explorer type of interface that allows you to kind of look at the data that are sitting in your Oracle database, look at different properties, attributes, different characteristics of those data in a very easy to navigate user interface. Next, we have our workflows capability. So basically, this is our drag and drop, low code, no code environment that allows you to take some of these core, both SQL and spatial and non-spatial functionality, build out these pipelines that allow you to run SQL on Oracle in a very easy to navigate, easy to understand and document and visualize manner. We'll go through an example here in a little bit on what our workflow solution looks like. Visualization, we have a builder product, and that's primarily where we're going to be working today, where we're able to take these data sets, bring them into a map, style them, add different types of interactions to add hover events, different types of widget-based filtering, and then obviously bringing some of the agentic capabilities. So let's ask questions about the data, and we're going to be spending most of our time today looking at that, kind of going through some of the capabilities on how those get set up and how you get access to that type of a capability through CARTO. And then we also have, which we're not going to touch on today, a whole SDK that allows you to build out custom applications, custom capabilities to kind of meet and align with different sets of use cases that you need to serve your business objectives. All right, so let's dig a little bit more into kind of what an AI agent looks like inside of CARTO. So basically agents, as you would imagine, are intelligent agents that basically leverage an LLM to perform different types of tasks. So these agents have the ability to reason and understand the data, to access different types of tools, different front-end tools and back-end tools, ability to remember context, automate tasks, and ultimately deliver insights through natural language processing to try to kind of broaden the information and types of capabilities that you can share and give access to different audiences across the enterprise. Looking at the next slide there. So what makes an agent? So when we think about, and we'll go through these in greater detail in a live demo, but we think about what kind of makes up an agent. Kind of there's multiple parts to this. The first part is kind of the use case and the instructions or the context. This slide builds, Chris, so if you click on the first box there, yep. Use case instructions or the context. So basically this is where the GIS practitioner is saying, okay, this is what we want the agent to do. So we want them to resolve this particular use case. These are the particular types of instructions that we want them to do when they perform this particular task. These are the particular attributes we want to use. The types of the sequence of operations, you can set those up in this context, these sets of instructions that the agent can use as it kind of defines the capabilities of the agent itself. All right, and then the next section here is these tools and capability. As I mentioned, we've got some front-end tools, which we'll talk about here in a second, but then also some back-end tools, some workflows and other APIs, and whether we have the ability, we want the agent to query data sources or not. We have that capability to set that all up and configure that through the agent configuration dialog here. And then finally, we've got which model do we want it to use? Obviously, there's a number of different models in the ecosystem. How do we tie into those? How do we determine which one we want to use? We've got some capabilities there that allows you to bring these different models and determine which type of model you want to perform for different types of tasks and activities. All right, so talking a little bit more about tools here on the next slide. Oh, this is just real quick. Yeah, so kind of this whole interface talks a little bit about the configuration. We've got our tools on the right, kind of brings all of these sorts of capabilities together. All right, Chris, go on to the next slide. Yes, when we look at our front-end tools, these kind of fall into 5 different categories. So think of these as these are the capabilities that the agent has out of the box. These are the types of things that the agent can do as you are interacting with them. So basically the agent has the ability to control the map as well as kind of extracting area of interest. So for example, if you say, zoom to this particular location, or you create a mask and say, perform the operation focusing on these sets of data, the agent has the ability to say, okay, I understand what you're talking about. As the agent is doing different types of processing, it can add data, it can style maps, it can change data in the legends, has the ability to extract data from widgets. So as we're building out our map, we're adding sequence of pie charts or bar charts the agent has the ability to filter, read those widgets, provide additional information via natural language based on those data that are available through those different types of UI elements. And then also update parameters. So our map application has the ability to use SQL parameters. It can generate and populate and create those parameters that then ultimately can run kind of constrained SQL, where it's parameterizing SQL statements and then filtering those data accordingly. And then the bottom one, if you've enabled it through the UI dialog, it has the process capability to generate SQL. So it will literally write SQL statements. It can do joins. It can do a lot of different types of spatial queries, and then add those results back to the map. As we're going through the dialog, show you where we have the ability to turn that off. If you don't want it to generate SQL, you want it to have more constraints, you have the ability to toggle this on or off depending on the particular use case. So these are all front-end tools. If we kind of look at the back-end tools, and this is where I think the real power comes in on the next slide here, we have the ability to generate workflows or tools that can then be accessed via the agent. And so ultimately what this creates is kind of an infinite number of tools that your agent has access to. And the agent, when calling these tools, doesn't necessarily have the ability to kind of come up with the process in place. Ultimately, the GIS practitioner or the user defines exactly the sequence of steps that will be performed in this particular operation. And all the agent will do is it'll call it, it'll execute it, and then it will take the results of that particular process and add those results to the map. And we'll go through an example of how you add something like this to the map. So really a very powerful capability that allows users to build out and constrain the types of activities that an agent can perform, and then give kind of access to those tools through a larger audience. All right, so now enough with the static activities. Let's go to the fun part, which is the demo. All right, so let me share my screen. All right. One second here. Move some controls around. All right.
There's still some part. Now we have the full view.
All right.
Thanks.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Yep. I just had to move some of the Zoom controls around so I can get access to the parts. But so basically what we're looking at here, and we'll kind of go through a number of different UIs here. But what we're looking at here is our builder map. Basically, this is our out-of-the-box mapping functionality. It allows you to take data from Oracle and bring it to the map and do things like style the data, add in widgets. What we're looking at here is traffic accident data over a 6-year period in the city of Austin, Texas, here in the US. And so basically, as you're zooming in, zooming out, we are executing queries against the database and rendering those types of results on the map. All of these widgets, as you add them, are filterable. So if you want to say, I only am interested in passenger car accidents, the data will update on the map based on those types of queries. As I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to process kind of parameterized SQL statements, what you're looking at here. So a lot of functionality out of the box through our builder application. Now, the fun part of this and the focus today is going to be on kind of the agentic experience and kind of what that looks like and how we interact with the map via natural language. So to access, and I'll be switching kind of through the user view and then kind of show you how things get customized on the back end, kind of hitting on some of those topics that we covered in our slide, in the slide. So to access the agent, we have the ability to open it up and have a series of kind of, I'll say, starter questions. Kind of these are the types of questions that maybe you want to enable your agent. I should point out we also have school data here on the map as well, in these red dots here. And so in this particular demo, we want to have conversations about, okay, let's look at the different types of accidents, maybe where they've occurred around schools, and those sorts of things. So let's just start with kind of a basic question of what can you do? Okay. All right. So basically what this agent is going to do, it looks at, interprets the instructions that I've given it, and basically says, I can do these types of things. And in a second here, I'll kind of show you how this is configured. Let's just start kind of with a basic example to kind of show you the range of types of questions that you can do. We'll see how many accidents had at least one injury. Pretty simple question. Basically, it will query the data set and then say, okay, there were 6,503 accidents that had at least one injury. So obviously, a very simple query. Kind of looking at the other extreme is, let's say, okay, well, we've got our accident data. We have schools. We say, okay, can you look at the accidents within 100 meters of schools and identify different preventative measurements measures that can reduce the number of accidents? Obviously, fairly complex sets of operations. So it's going to look at the distance of the accidents from schools. It will tell you that it's the different types of things that it can do. So it's a sequence of operations that the agent will perform to kind of look at both the spatial and the attribute information and come up with a series of recommendations around these particular actions. Obviously, the agent is going to be doing its best to interpret the data, and ultimately these sorts of outputs need to be put in the hands of the appropriate engineers or other users to say, yes, what the agent recommended are good activities that we should implement. All right, so we can see here that the agent added a school buffer layer, and now it should be going through the process where it's analyzing the data and doing different types of interpretation to see exactly what is going on with those data to come up and identify different types of activities. And in the true form of a demo, it looks like it's still running here. So yeah, so a lot of these capabilities here that it will kind of, again, as I mentioned, kind of review the data, look at the distance from the school, so cross querying, generate a lot of these queries on the fly, and then ultimately should give us some recommendations on what it can do. All right, why is it taking so long here? Okay. Let me give it just another couple minutes here. So as you're building these models, obviously different LLMs that you're bringing into the analysis have kind of different capabilities. So in this particular case, I'm using Gemini Flash, which is, in all of these models have different pros and cons, so different types of advantages and disadvantages. In this particular case, I'm using Gemini Flash, which is typically a quicker model, so performs faster. Let me just restart this analysis. Not really sure what's going on. As I mentioned, Gemini Flash is fairly quick in its ability to process data, but sometimes because of that trade-off, it doesn't necessarily have all of the reasoning capabilities, where Gemini Pro, for example, has more reasoning capability, but is a little bit slower to process data. All right, so seems to be having problems with this question for some reason. Not sure it worked just fine every other time before, but basically what it should do is give you the ability to kind of look at those data and say, these are the types of characteristics I've seen, and these are the types of measures that you should implement. All right, let me just stop this and kind of show you how this configuration works. So as I just switched from our agent view, we've got this edit view. So basically this kind of toggles between the user experience with kind of how you configure the agent. And so as I mentioned in the slides, this is where you say, okay, this is what I want you to do. These are the types of instructions. These are the data sources that you have access to. These are the attributes that you have. This is kind of all of that additional information that you have that allows you to instruct or tell the agent what types of activities you want it to do. This is where we add tools where we can tell the agent, yes, you can generate SQL statements where you can query the data or generate SQL. And then here's the different types of models that we want. So we have the ability to leverage a whole portfolio of models, whether it's Google-based models, OpenAI, hosted on Amazon Bedrock, Oracle OCI, a lot of different places where you can store and run these models. And then ultimately you are accessing these models that are stored and managed by you. And so you don't have to, you can ensure that the different types of interactions are governed and using your specific model, not something that's available on the public internet. Then we've got kind of these prompts or these starter types of questions that you can let the model know. So looking at these sorts of capabilities, so then we talked about the tools. So basically the tools that the model, the agent has access to, adding layers, filtering layers, those types of things are available to all agents. And then we've got this ability to kind of bring in different tools via the MCP protocol and workflows that allows you to kind of enrich the set of capabilities that the agent has access to. So if we look at, this is our workflow environment where I've got the same schools data set. I'm going to have a buffer that basically takes in a parameter. So these are different these components that I referenced earlier, where it's a combination of both spatial and non-spatial types of operators that allow you to build out these SQL-based workflows that you can then schedule, you can expose as APIs, or in this particular case, we're publishing these as an MCP tool. And so if we look at the parameters, this particular simple workflow basically has one parameter. It's a buffer distance in meters. I've published this. It's called the Austin School Buffer. And then it takes a default value of 50. And here's the kind of the configuration or the instructions that the agent will say, okay, I have this tool called Austin School Buffer. And these are the instructions so that the agent has a good understanding of, okay, I have this tool in my tool belt. It's going to take a distance and it will return a layer that I can then add to the map. I should point out, in this particular example, we're making the MCP tool available to the agent. We also have examples where we're leveraging external chat interfaces that can access this same MCP tool via external to CARTO. So basically, we're building out, you can build out this workflow, expose it to internal CARTO tools, or also access the same MCP tool via an external LLM. And so basically where this type of function comes in is we've got basically, here's the tool. So I've said, okay, I want to add this tool. I've already added this tool to my agent configuration. And here's those same parameters that we saw on the workflow side. So if I go ahead and add that and say, can you add a 1 mile buffer to the schools? Basically, the agent will call. You can see it's reading and calling that MCP tool, that Austin School Buffer tool, and it will generate that buffer if it behaves, and then add that 1 mile buffer to the map. So pretty powerful. Obviously, it's a very simple example about using. Pretty simple example on how you leverage this tool, and then give you that functionality to add the different types of more complicated types of output to the map. All right, so just wanted to touch briefly on kind of how, if we go back into our configuration, how you kind of what this process looks like. What do we got? About 15 minutes left. Kind of how this process looks like when you're kind of trying to add additional capabilities to the map or different types of instruction sets. So let's say we wanted to ask a question like, well, I'll just copy it here. I wanted to say, okay, give me the details of the accents that, oops, not that one, sorry. Can you give me the details of accidents that have occurred in 2024? So basically the agent will give you the details of the accident and tell you, say, okay, or here's the accidents from 2024, doing some different things of adding different, you can see here that added the layer and say, okay, here's the map of these data, and it's added, these tooltips, etc. Say, we want to say, okay, give me the, can you, these data for me. Oops. All right, so it gave me a very simple summary that says, okay, here's how many accidents have occurred in 2024. Kind of show you the process for how you would say, okay, well, I want a different summary if somebody asks this type of question. So basically what you would do is you would configure the agent and say, okay, here's the set of instructions that say, all right, if you're going to summarize the data, I want you to display the accidents by severity, time, and vehicle types, and limit those categories to show kind of the top 5 groups by count. And so basically this is kind of that map-based context that you're telling the agent what to do. And then if you go back and ask the same question, can you give me basically, we just told the agent to answer the question differently. And if you're going to do that, then add this additional context. And so basically, we should get the breakdown by those instructions that we just gave the agent. So pretty simple in terms of how you configure the agent and kind of the processes that you want it to do. And so here you go. The number of accidents that we basically told it to do. And so that's kind of the type of configuration that you need to perform as you're building out these agents and giving kind of the okay, here's what we want the agent to do, the types of attributes. But obviously users, if I asked it for different attributes, it would give you those additional attribute groups as well if I specified that. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes left. One quick thing, I know I mentioned looking at agents, so how would you leverage Oracle's tie into an agent that's hosted on OCI? We talk about these different types of models. If, for example, you had a model that was hosted up on, let me see here, Analytics, yeah, we had a model here that you would want to, say, tie into. I don't have one as an example, but if you had a model here that you wanted to tie in, how would you bring that into CARTO? It's a pretty straightforward process. Inside of your workspace, you've got kind of your different models that you have access to. Opening up, I'm logged in, I don't have super admin privileges in this account, but you can basically add the parameters that allow you to say, okay, this is the particular LLM that I want to get access to that is hosted up in this environment. And then ultimately, once you have that configured, these models would be available through the type of the drop down here for your users to consume. So pretty straightforward as far as kind of bringing in some of those sorts of LLMs into your builder application. All right, Chris, and I think that takes care of the demonstration from me. I'll throw it back to you. If we've haven't been paying attention for questions. If we've got any questions out
there. There is, Martine has just posted a question. So you always need to add the full context, but can it also read the context from metadata?
Yeah, so it will have information from the types of tables. It already knows the type of tables that are available to it, the data formats, those sorts of things. So yeah, so it will read the table structure based off of the data that you have added to your map.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So the other questions we've already covered. So Chris, you wanted to take over?
Perfect. Thank you. So let me come back here. Okay. Sure my controls are all set. Okay, so I believe you can see my screen again. Certainly, if Ryan, thank you for taking us through the demonstration. If there's any questions that have come up as you've begun to see the capabilities with CARTO, please do type them into your prompt, the Q&A prompt. One of the things for me that's kind of mind-blowing is the ability now today to leverage. Ryan brought us through the workflow piece, and you saw this whole catalog of different joins and tools and capabilities, and the ability, the capability to create access for that to simple business users, the ability for them to self-serve and be able to move, have the option to begin to move certain workflows over and give direct access to the business teams who are looking to make the decisions is one of the things that that I really, I find remarkable. Is very much an aha moment over the past, 12 to 18 months in this agentic journey that we're all on together. As you see on the screen today, or here in front of you, please do, if you would like access to the limited availability release of CARTO on Oracle, feel free to reach out to either Hans or myself, and you see our email addresses here. And in addition, I'm sharing the QR code again. If you'd like to connect with myself or Ryan or Leo or any of the CARTO team, we're happy to set up time and go a little more in depth. Again, I want to thank our hosts. I see. Did we answer Martin's question here?
Yes,
okay.
we did.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I want to thank our hosts very, very much, Karen, Hans. We really appreciate the opportunity to work closely together, and it's been an absolute pleasure doing such. And I think this probably concludes our content for today. I'm happy to take on additional questions, or if anyone, if you would like to see some of the additional use cases and things like that across the other verticals, I can share on that in the 5 minutes that we have left. Just let me pause here and take a breath and see.
I think this is just the beginning of a long, hopefully long journey together. Yeah, we are looking very much forward to do things together with you. Yeah, in order to conclude this session, here are the links to our resources. Most of you should be familiar with it, but in case you don't recall them, here are the links for it. And
there's actually even one more link which I can put into chat if I still
yes,
have
please
it,
do.
which is the announcement blog on the CARTO blog, which you may find interesting to recap what we've been talking about today. Let me just put that into let me see if I still have that. No, that was not it, but I'll send that in just a second while you're wrapping up, Karin. I just wanted to make folks aware that there is a nice blog post describing the joint offering, blog post that Javi de la Torre from CARTO, the co-founder of CARTO, created in October when the platform was launched. And you'll see more content coming out over the next couple of weeks from both us as Oracle as well as the CARTO team, I guess.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Chris, Ryan, and Leo for being part of the session today. Our next Ask Tom.
Karen, we got one question.
I'm
Martin
sorry.
just had another question before we drop.
Yeah, sure. Martin has asked about whether the GUI is and supports different languages. That's for you, Chris, Leo, and Ryan. Oh.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure that it supports different languages. We're an international company, so certainly it's available in different languages. Yeah.
We do. The agents also, depending on what agent you use, but the agents can operate on multiple languages these days. So even though, I don't know, we can't claim we cover all the languages, but depending on the language that you have, I can certainly say that the agent probably handles it. It might not be the full GUI, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is you can ask it one question in Spanish and it'll give you an answer in Spanish. You can ask the subsequent question in English and it'll give you the answer in English. It's actually pretty interesting. It will use the language in which you ask the question as it generates the response.
Yeah.
And then there is another question from Alan about, are there use cases on the CARTO side? Yes. This is a moving discipline right now, particularly in AI. So we might not have the latest and greatest published immediately on the website. So if there is anything that you want to talk specifically, you can reach out to anybody here on this team, particularly Chris. He'll be able to route it. Thanks for the questions, folks.
And in case anybody wants to see things live and talk to the CARTO team in person, I know we've got a bunch of folks from sort of all over the place on today's webcast here. You may be interesting to hear that the CARTO team will be sponsoring 3 of the AI Cloud World tour, AI World Tour stops, the one in London, the one in New York City, and the one in Singapore, so that there's an opportunity to meet with the CARTO team in the exhibition in case you're in the area or in case you're traveling to one of the 3 events. So that's your chance to see this live and talk to people.
No further questions.
Just one last bit, Alan, if you'd like to reach out, if you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to share the deck with some of the use cases and we can have a chat on it as well.
Okay, perfect. So I don't see any further questions. So your chance to meet us next time is on February 24th. We haven't decided on the topic yet, but you will be seeing it as soon as we have decided on the topic. And as I mentioned at the beginning, feel free to drop us a note if you're interested in a specific topic or use case. Give us some time ahead to work on it. Yep. We are happy to pick anything up what you're interested in and turn this into useful content to be presented to the audience. Stay safe until then, and see you next time. Thank you very much for joining our session today.